Welcome back. We're at part 2. As I was saying before, when you place this down, it's not going to be a perfect fit. So we're going to glue this down first. And we're going to just bring that over, making sure we're even top to bottom, which we're going to have white, a little more white. We're going to bring it over to the right hand side. Our flaps are off to the right. Tuck them all back behind. It might be easier. I am using that Prima rosette trim here, and it comes like this. I cut a strip that would fit just like that. All I'm going to do is trim off the excess on the side, and then on both sides. Then what I'm going to do is glue that right on down, just like that. Grab your spellbinders, and what you're going to want to do is ink using your metallic silver. Ink around the edges. I did come in here and lightly brush a little bit over some of the detail work. And then we're going to glue that down. In your paper pack, you will find this. This is yellow with the white polka dots. On the back, it's this. Measure over 3.5 inches and cut it. Grab the ring, the die ring that goes to this. And all you're going to do is move this over for what you need. And you'll cut off what you don't need. Run that through the die cutter. And then we're just going to center this right here, and we're going to glue that down. In your Paper House embellishment pack, you're going to find Just Married, and we are going to remove the adhesive off the back. We'll apply a little glue back there. Okay. We're actually going to mount this onto chipboard, so if you have a scrap piece, you'll want to do that. You can use the scrap chipboard off the back of your paper. All we're going to do now, once we've got that glued down, is we're going to cut around that. And then we're going to need our pop-up squares. I've got my little 3D squares here, and I'm going to place one here, here, and there. And that should be just fine. Remove it, backing. And I'm going to just put this right at an angle like this. Go ahead and get a flower, get one ready to go. I have one of these larger ones. If you'd like to use filler, that's always nice too for this. And I'm just going to get that going here. Oops, I'm sticking. And then all I'm going to do is lay this here. Now if you're not using filler, you can put a large one and 2 smaller ones on either side. I am using one of the satin flowers with the rhinestone in the middle. And I'm going to just stick that right at the top. Just like that. Let's go ahead and attach this. Line it up where it's supposed to be. You'll pinch it when you got it where it needs to be. And sometimes that happens. And then we'll tack that down. I've cut 2 pieces of ribbon, and all I'm going to do is just slide that right underneath here, like that. And my paper's going to cover that, so I'm not going to worry. And for this one, I'm just going to kind of line this up as best as I can with that. And I'll tack that down right there. And once I get this tied, I can trim up the tails of my ribbon to whatever I like. And that should be good for me. Perfect. Let's flip this on over and work on the inside. In your reserves, you will have this. We are after this sheet. Measure over 6 inches and cut that. Stick this one off to this side. It's for this side. We're going to measure over 7 inches and cut that. All we're going to do is glue that right on down. So the bride will be able to have, there's no pocket on this, so the bride will be able to, we have one more piece, but the bride will be able to post or plant a nice picture of her and the groom. So I applied glue and I am mounting this. You're going to be centering this on this fold out. Be sure you do not glue this down onto the score line there. Cut a piece of white cardstock that is 5 1/8 of an inch by 6 1/8 of an inch. And we are going to glue this. We're going to center that and glue that down. In your reserves, you will have this sheet. Measure over 6 inches and cut it. Now, place this down over the white cardstock, and if you have a little bit of white showing around like a border, then you're good. We're going to ink around the edges with this, with the silver, and then we are going to mount this down. Now, if you're too wide this way, just trim a sliver off. Go ahead and ink up another one of these. And I used the butterfly punch, and then I dabbed a little bit of my silver ink on it, and then I finished it off by just rubbing really lightly the silver stickles. So when this dries, I am going to go ahead, and all I want to do is get right down here because we want to be able to slide that picture back in there. It's just get it enough to where it's at the bottom. So right under here I have glue. Right under here I have glue. Under this, here, and here. And then I'm going to glue this butterfly down right here. Oops, I got everything sticking to me. I am going to snip a few from the bling on the row, and there's about 3 little rhinestones there. And I'm going to place that down on the butterfly. On this piece that was for this side, we do need to cut this down, but first let's just measure over 7 inches and cut it. Down, just measure over 5 inches and cut it. Before you go any farther, make sure that this is going to fit in yours, clearing your score line there, and mine does. Now, if you're using this, the trimmings from the side where we cut this off, you can use that to make a little bow. And I'm just going to glue that right here. If you're not using that, don't worry about it. It still looks good without. All right, we're working on over here. I'm going to move this off to the side. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/4 inches wide by 6 1/8 inches long. And what we're going to do is pretty much the same thing here. We're going to apply glue, and we're just going to center that and glue it down. You'll have this in your reserves. This should already be cut what we need it. Measure over 4 1/8 of an inch and cut that. Whoops. Check to see if this will fit, and mine fits. I'm going to ink around the edges with my silver, and then I'm going to center and glue that down. This is what you should have. Let's open up our fold out, and we're just going to glue that right on down. So let's do that. We're going to grab one of these. We're going to remove the adhesive backing, put a little glue, and all we're going to use this time is white cardstock, and we're going to cut it around. I did use my craft knife to get in there, and all I'm going to do is add glue. I'm not going to put it under here because I want to be able to slide a photo up underneath there. So I'm going to just put glue in areas that I need. And I believe just by hitting the top with some glue should work. Like that. This page is complete. We are not going to mount this one in our book yet. We're actually going to do page 2 first, mount page 2, and then we will mount page 1 so we can make sure it's all even there. So let's go ahead and get this ready though. We're going to flip this over. We're going to apply score tape around the outside, 1 down the middle, and 2 right here and here on either side. About that big. Then I'll show you what mine looks like. This is what mine looks like. Let's set this off to the side. I've moved some of my lighting around, so hopefully it isn't so dark. Let's get into our paper pack and locate this sheet. Let's measure over 7 inches and cut. This goes in our reserves. Now let's measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut that. Grab a piece of cardstock, and out of your spellbinders, the timeless rectangles, you're just going to place that down and run that through the die cutter. What you're going to get is this. We're going to go around the edges with some of our metallic silver ink. In your reserves, you will have this. Grab this out, and you're just going to place this where you can still see the little dots around there, and just to the left of the edge of the paper. Well, what I want you to do is pull it down enough to where you can see the right hand side where it has that. So just on the left side of the dots over here, just make a pencil mark like that. Let's go ahead and bring this up a little bit. Now we're going to measure across. So I'm going to put it right up underneath the dots, and I'm going to move it over a little so I can see where the bottom dots are supposed to go, and I'm just going to make a pencil mark like that. So I'm actually going to cut this way first, and then I'll trim that piece. Just double check to make sure that you fit. We're going to glue that down, and then we're going to do some decorating to it straight. Okay, grab your diamond stickles, And also, you're going to want to do this on our first page. Grab your diamond stickles and just rub some around here with the tip, just to make that white frame kind of sparkle a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing with this. So there is some drying time before we mount these. And we're just going to go around and the stickles around. So let's do that. And you don't need to go heavy on this, just enough to get a little sparkle around our frame. And we're going to give this probably about 10 minutes. Now if you went thick, you might want to rub off some of the thickness of it because it'll take more to dry. I'm going to let this dry for about 10 minutes. So while this is drying, I did another butterfly and I used silver stickles, and I did use my finger to go over so that it's not all clumped up. When you are done, this does need to dry as well, so we might as well have everything drying together. You're going to want to put a flat back pearl in the center of it, just like so. And we're going to stick that one off to the side to dry too. Grab your trim, pearl trim, and we are going to cut pieces like so, and we're going to glue that down, and we're going to go all the way around the frame. So I'll show you what that looks like. This is what mine looks like right now. Now if you'd like to add pearls to this, you most certainly can, and it would look really pretty too. Let's go ahead and glue this down. This page is pretty much the spotlight for the bride and groom. My stickles is still just a little bit wet, so I may have to go back over. Now you don't have to glue this completely down all the edges. I have mine to where it's still kind of popping up there. I am getting the edges up here just to give it a little dimensional look. Our butterfly, let's just place that right here. Go ahead and make a bow out of your ribbon, and let's just attach that right up here. And then if you want to cut your tails down, you can. Grab your light chipboard, and we're going to remove the backing. We're going to grab this, and we're going to remove the backing there. And we're going to put glue, and then we're just going to place it down right here, and we're going to cut around that. Now to cut around that, I used some scallop scissors, and I cheated. So I have that down. Let's grab some pop-up squares. And this is going to place just like this. So I'm going to put a pop-up square there, and there. Just like that. That should be plenty. Just a couple underneath over here. And then I'm going to just run some glue like this. Actually, I'm going to use hot glue for this. Tack that right down to that pearl. And you can still get a picture in and out of there is the idea. So. Okay, this page is complete. We're going to flip it over, score tape around the outside, one down the middle, two smaller ones on either side. I'm going to remove the score tape in just a moment. Let's grab our album. Make sure your work surface is clean. We're going to open this up. Let's slide a piece of chipboard behind that first piece. Now before I take off the score tape, I'm going to show you. All you're going to do is place it down Now you're not going to come right up on the crease here. You're going to have about 3/16 of an inch or an eighth all the way around this. It gives you room for clearing that score line for your hinge. So let me do the first one and I'm going to show you. So that's all we're trying to do is center this. If your stuff is still wet, I just felt mine, looks like it might still be a little wet. You're not going to want to do this. You're just going to let them totally dry. So I'm going to do this really quick. And it's about right there, I'm guessing. It's hard to see without getting my head in the video. I like that. Alright, because I couldn't lean over without getting my head in the video, I am a little bit more down here than up here, but that's okay. Now what you're going to want to do when you place this, you're going to bring it over more to the left, but the idea is to match up the bottom of this with that, the top with that. And like I said, I'm going to drag mine over to the left more because we are thicker here. And I'm going to remove the score tape. And I'm going to mount that. Now after I mount it, I'm going to untie this, open it up, and smooth my papers down. So I've got both of mine mounted here, and I did go ahead and put that pearl. Since I'm building this as I go, we may come back and revisit a few pages to add a little this or that I wanted to do. So let's move on. We are on page 3. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet, and it's kind of a olive or grayish color. Now before we start cutting into this, in my craft drawer, I did pull out a variety of different colors of flowers. Just in case you're not using the same as me, I want you to know that you can use the different colors with this. For example, here's a yellow, and it goes perfectly fine. I even grabbed a mauve or a darker mauve colored one, and that looks good. This is like a sage green. That's beautiful with it. And this is kind of a turquoisey blue, and that's really sharp. This is one color blue. I even pulled out some with purples. Here's another one. Pinks look good with it. This is kind of a light peachy pink color. This is peach. And I also compared it with something like this that is more of a whitish with some accents of, it looks like almost a mauve on that. And so I wanted to let you know and show you that a lot of things will go with this. On this particular one, I am going to be making some flowers, a little more than what I got here, but this is the with the sky blue. And this is a darker version of the sky blue and some white ones. And I made them, and I'm going to make a few more, but I made them the way I showed you before. I did put the diamond stickles on it, and then I did use glossy accents and let it dry. Okay, here we go. Measure over 7 inches and cut. This goes in our reserves. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is 7 1/4 inches this way, 7 inches wide, and this is a good time to grab our sheet out if you're using this. Now another thing you can use is if you already have stamps with a lot of these sentiments, you don't need to do this. I have a mixture, a little bit anyway, of wedding stamps, but I decided just to keep it all the same and whatnot. So let's get our paper ready. Out of the timeless rectangles, you will find one of the die plates fits great over all of these. And I've got mine spaced so that it's going to work with all of these. I am going to go ahead and spend a few moments, and I'm going to center each word and die cut it each one out, and then I'm going to put them in a pile so that when I need them, I can grab them. There's also a wedding party that needs to be done. So let's take a moment and get all of that ready for us. Okay, I've got mine all die cut there. Now some of these you don't have to use, of course, depending on what you're doing there. But a lot of these go on the folders, and we will take a moment after a bit on some of the folders and put those a couple of those together so you can get some ideas for the end of the album how to do yours. Grab the bride, and I'm using the diamond stickles, and I'm going around the frame to give it that sparkly effect. And when I'm done with it, I should have started with a new bottle. When I'm done with it, I'm going to put glossy accents over it to gloss it up. If you're not using glossy accents, that's fine. You don't have to. It's just what I'm doing. So I'm going to let that sit. The next one is the dress. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with the stickles around the sides and then the glossy accents all over it. Now I'm using a scratch piece of paper, and this is how I do the glossy accents, especially on a sentiment. I do grab a paintbrush, and when you are done with this, you want to wash it immediately. So using an older brush is always best. So I'm just going to squirt some out here. And I'm going to brush. Now, as soon as you got that on there, make sure you ain't got any clumps on there. You're going to want to pick it up. It is going to curl on you a little bit, but that's okay. We can flatten it back up. The curling is because it's wet, and that's going to happen with anything that you do. So I've got that, and I am going to stick this well aside from my project and my album while it dries. And because it is the glossy accents, not only does it glosson, but it also is a medium, so it is like adhesive. I'm going to go wash my paintbrush and my hands. Once your glossy accent's dry, you can go right back over it with one more coat of a light coat of the stickles. You will have, and I don't know if you can see it, you will have a shiny and sparkly label then. Okay, we are going to hand make a dress together, and it's optional, okay? It is not hard. You do not need to be an artist to draw or whatever. So on that chipboard piece, let's start off by measuring over 5 inches and cutting. Now let's give us a little room, measure over 6 inches and cut, and then this little piece over here put in your reserves. I'm going to zoom in. We are going to get a pencil, and this will get covered up if you make mistakes, so you can erase or do whatever it is that you need to do to get this done to the best of your ability. You do not have to be perfect because we are going to be placing our paper over it and our laces. Now don't worry, I'm not going to go and start sketching out a beautiful dress or anything. We're going to do a basic outline, and we're going to stay together on this. Then you can adjust it for how skinny you want it to how curvy you want it, how much bust, if you want her flat or if you want her to have a boyish figure. Me, I'm going to go for a little curve there. She's not going to be have a huge bust of a dress. Okay, we are 5 inches across and 6 inches tall. Place your ruler down, and at 1 3/4 of an inch down from the top, I want you to put a pencil mark. I want you to do it on this side too. Now, what I want you to do is line that up and just faintly draw a pencil line. That line is going to represent where her waist is, okay? Now, take your ruler and at 1.5 inches, I want you to put a little line. And at 2.5 inches, and we can adjust this, remember, make a line. All I'm going to do is make a curve. Remember, this is just our pattern, and if we need to adjust to proportion it, we can. I usually have to when I do a pattern like this. This is what you should have. All right. From the bottom corner here to right here, and again, we will adjust. I want you to just draw a line, and you can make waves in it. You don't have to be, look at mine. Yeah, just like that. Now from this side, I want you to draw on over like this. It does not come all the way down. From here, just pull the lines up a little. And do that. Okay? Now, I am going to cut this out. Up here, as you can tell, I have a sharper line. I may want to round that out like this. Let's cut it out and take a look at what we got. Now, I want to give mine more of a shape, hip. You may want to use your pencil first, because mine is not showing that any hips for this girl. So I'm just going to do that. Just a little bit of a waistline with a little bit of hips. If you need to trim off a little bit of the side, do so. Now remember, we do have lace and we do have a covering, but pretty much looking at it, that's what it's going to look like. And it is going to be a pocket where you can slide stuff behind. And also the dress, we can get that on there too. So let's find the paper that we need to mount on top of this first. In your reserves, you will find this paper. On the back, it looks like this. I'm looking at it front view like this. So what I'm going to do is flip it over to where I'm looking at this, the back side. Here's the front of my pattern. I'm going to turn it over, and even though my thing sticks out here, I can fix it once I've used my, I'm going to bring it all the way down so it stays straight. I'm going over the edge, but I'm not going to worry about that. So all I'm going to do is trace what will fit on this. Now, I'm going to cut this out. Put all your scraps in your reserves. Let's take a look at how I did here. If I place it over now, it should look pretty good. Other than the fact that the tail is going to peek out. We're not going to worry about that right now. The only thing that we're going to do is glue this down on top. And we are using this piece should now fit on top of this piece. So let's glue that down. I've got mine down. All I'm going to do is come from the bottom right here and snip up at a curve. Kind of like that. Now nothing is glued down, and you can certainly decorate your own bridal dress the way you want. If you want to follow along, you can. The lace down here is actually the trim, and it's the 2-inch. And this is how you will want to do. All I did was lay down a piece to where I could have this right there in the middle, and then I cut it to fit. This is off the same, and all I did was place it to where this part came up, and I cut it to fit. I grabbed some of the 1/2 inch and I did cut it because I'm going to glue that back behind there. So once you have that, let's glue this down. Cut a small piece of white ribbon, and we are just going to put some glue right there. We are going to pull it tight around the waistline, and this is a good time, if you have hot glue, to get that tacked down. And you'll want all the little things tacked down on that because you just will, so nothing snags. Oops. And I think that looks lovely. Make a small bow, and we are going to glue that right here at an angle. Cut a piece of bling that will fit right across there. And we're going to glue that down. With your 3/4 inch thin white lace, you are going to cut between 2 pieces like this. I've got a couple down here. You are going to trim off this bottom little white area. And you are going to glue that down like so, and then you can trim it up as needed. Not sure if you caught that or not. The 2 little pieces here. You're just going to glue those right on down, and then we can trim it up to fit better as needed. Trim off one section of the bling on the row, and we are going to glue that. And you'll want to trim now after your glue dries, but this just gets placed right there. And I think you could see that. I'll bring it up in a moment. If you'd like to do additional to this dress, whoops, go ahead. But I thought that looked just lovely. Grab this, and I did now use my silver to ink around the edges and blot a little bit heavier up here on the sides. This is just going to be placed straight down, and that is going to straighten it out. I'm going to apply glue right about here. And again, you'll want to make sure that everything is dry. Mine's dry, so I think yours should be too. With this, you're going to want a couple binder clamps or whatever you can get your hands on, like these, or if you have these. And I'm going to back it out here now. I've got a mess going on. We're not going to use score tape on this. We're actually going to use our glue, and we are going to clamp that down. And all we're doing here is going down here and doing a line like that. So over here and down here. And we're just going to line that up. Your dress is going to fall. Your dress is going to fall underneath your paper. And that's okay. If you don't like that because it sticks out, then chop it. And I'm just going to use some of these to hold this down. And I don't have another binder clip, so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to let that dry. In the meantime, I'm going to do another butterfly and ink around the edges really good with my silver. And I'll put some on my finger first. I'm just going to rub that around there, blot it on. I'm going to allow that to dry too while that dries. Once that dries, I can go ahead and put some bling in the middle there. Let's go ahead and glue our butterfly down. Now you should be able to, after this dries, even put large picture mats back behind here. And this is a pretty large one, so you should be okay with that. Now one thing I did not make a little thing for is the rehearsal dinner. So if you want to include that in your album and put it down on a page, you can. That was just a thought. I totally forgot about that, but some people don't even have that. Let's move on. Grab a piece of white cardstock and grab this frame out of your rectangles, the timeless rectangles, and you're going to die cut this on white cardstock. It's going to look like this, and then you're going to rub your metallic silver ink all over it like this. What's going to happen is this is going to place inside of it eventually. Once you've done that, cut a piece of white cardstock that is 7 1/4 inches by 6 inches. We are 6 inches across. Score at a 1/2 inch and score at 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to fold on our score lines. Okay, we're going to just flip this on over. Our flaps are off to the right. In your reserves, you will have this. Measure over 7 inches and cut it. We're not going to glue this down yet, but let's just make sure that if we place this in here, we'll have a white border around, and we are clearing our inner score mark. Let's work with this. In your reserves, see if you have a 5 inch by 8 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock. That's what I'm going to start with. If you don't, cut a piece. In your ornate borders and pockets die, you will have these die plates, and it's this one and this one. You are going to center this, making sure you're even from here to here and from here to here. And you're going to run that through the die cutter. This is what you should have. Now we're going to cut from side over, side over. I'm going to stick this on my paper cutter so I can keep a straight line and even to release this top portion. This is what you should have. Let's go ahead and put our score tape at the bottom. I am running out, and I'm going to get my new one out. Remove the score tape, and we are going to center this, and we'll wrap the edges around the back and tack it down. In your reserves, you will find this sheet. All we're going to do is lay this down. It should be the same width if you need to trim it a little. And then we're just going to take our pencil and put a mark down here where we're going to need to trim. So now let's trim. Apply glue to the back and glue that down. Cut a piece of 1 3/4 of an inch, or if you have a different width, that's fine. And we're just going to glue that right on down. Cut a piece of bling to fit across and glue that down. In your Jolie's pack, I'm going to grab this one. It does have some adhesive on it, but it's not enough, at least not in my opinion. So I'm just going to put a little hot glue there, or regular glue, and I'm just going to glue that right on down. Let's add glue to the back of this, and your flaps are going to be off to your right, and this is the inside, so we're just going to glue that right on down, centering it. You'll have white around, and just make sure you do not get on that score line. This, if you were to put it up here, will look really lovely together. Let's grab our 1/2 inch lace. We are going to cut to fit around. So I am just going to measure up what I need. Cut. You don't need much down here because the dress. And approximately right there. So I'm just going to use my white glue, and I'm just going to start at the top. And glue this all down around. This is what yours should look like. And I was going to have you attach this, but let's finish this up first. I'm going to tuck back all my tabs back behind there. In your reserves, you will find this. We are working on the outside, flaps off to the left. And we're going to measure over 7 inches and cut that. Grab your Prima rosette trim, and we are going to trim off the netting here, and we are just going to cut pieces to fit all the way around, and then we're going to glue that down. Keep your trimmings, they come in handy. Now let's just glue this panel right on down to the front of this. Once everything's dry, let's go ahead and attach this. And it's the same thing we did before, lining it up with the top and the bottom, pinching it, and tacking this down. Now, using the same dies, what we want to do is at least have 6 inches from top to bottom. The width does not matter. I just grabbed a piece, and you can go ahead and center that. What we'll be doing is trimming it down this way. So go ahead and grab those same die plates that we used in here and run it through your die cutter. Once you have that, we are going to put this on our paper trimmer. And the first thing we're going to do is cut from side to side evenly. Now all we are going to do is from the corner there, cut straight up on either side. And you'll want to use your paper cutter to keep these lines straight. This is what you should have. Place this down on your scoreboard. Let's go ahead and score at a 1/2 inch. And then let's do 3/16. I'm going to move mine over so I can get that. I think I know what that is. And then we can just fold on our score lines. Okay. Now grab a piece of cardstock that is 6.5 inches long, and the width should be about 4 1/8. And how you are going to determine your width, it's going to be the exact same on where you cut here. I'm 4 1/8 inch across here, and I want them to be able to be the same. So go ahead and cut yours. Place your piece down on your scoring board. We are 6.5 inches. Our first scoring is at the 1/2 inch mark. Our second scoring line is at 7/8 of an inch. And the reason why we are thicker down here is because we are thicker down here. So let's go ahead and fold on our score lines. Now you will have this overhang here, and you're just going to fold that up for now, up underneath, and slide this to the bottom. This should clear and be able to give you enough room. Now let's go ahead and slide this top one, and it should be good. We will need magnets for this. Let's grab a magnet really quick. A couple magnets anyway, if I can get mine apart. We're just going to place, and I'm going to use my hot glue, one right there. In your reserves, you will have this square piece. We're just going to lay this down, and we're going to allow us about 1/16 of an inch of white off to the side, and then we're going to measure over and make a mark about 1/16 of an inch in from the right side of our white fold out here. And then we're going to trim. I've got glue on me. We're going to trim this to fit too, and I'm just going to place that right there. Now one thing you might want to do is move it over enough so that you can see your inner score line. And you're going to make a mark with your pencil where we're going to need to trim, allowing yourself 1/16 of an inch of white that would still be between the inner score and the bottom of where we're going to trim there. So let's do that. Before you glue this down, make sure that you are going to fit and clear that score line. Mine does. So now I'm going to glue this down. Let's go ahead and attach this so that we can get our magnets placed. And you're just going to have to be patient with lining this up. Now I've got mine centered here, and I am going to pinch it. And tap it down. Now I'm going to attach this one, making sure that they line up. Pinch it and tack this one down. Now, one thing is if you've got a little bit off, this is where your magnets will help you. Grab the mate to the one we have under this paper. Okay, dab and let it fall. Dab a dot of glue in the middle. Hold this and bring this over slowly so that you know where it needs to line up. And that will get you straight again. Once you have it down, press, and then you can see where that magnet should be placed. And once you have that, place it. In your reserves, you should have this. We're going to do the same thing as cutting this to fit by making our marks. And I'm going to trim here and here. Let's see if I did that a good job. And I did. I have white around here. We're going to glue this right on down. I've got mine down. Let's see how we fit. And that should be a nice fit. Let's grab this, apply glue just to the back in here, and we are going to center this. And if your edges are curling up or whatever, great. Mine are too, and it kind of gives that dimensional look. Let's find our paper for this. In your paper pack, you will find this. If you flip it over, you will notice it is a pearly color. We're going to measure over 4 inches and cut that. If you need to trim this to fit side by side, go ahead and do so. All I'm going to do is place this down, make a mark with my pencil, and trim it to fit. If you fit, let's go ahead and glue this down. Let's grab our 1/2 inch thin white trim, and we are going to cut a piece to fit there and a piece to fit across here. Let's glue that down. Now let's cut the same thing. Let's cut this 1/2 inch trim to fit across here, across here, and on the sides. And then we'll glue that down. Once you have that, let's apply glue to the back of this. Center and glue that down. Make sure your lace is completely dry or it could come back up. Okay, let's grab some of our flowers. Now you can arrange your flowers any way you want, but I cut a bow, or I actually made a bow, and I'm going to put that there. I do have filler, and I did have a little bit of the 1/2 inch left over from my 1 yard cut, and I just arranged them just like this. So let's go ahead and glue that down. You will hear noises in the background. Which I apologize for. You can just situate them any way that you would like. Alrighty, let's go ahead, flip that open, and finish up
in
on
your
this.
reserves.
You will find this, and we're just going to do exactly the same thing we did before, making sure we are underneath that score line. Make a mark where we need to trim, and then we're going to glue that down. When you're trimming, you're going to want to trim across this way first. I've got mine down. This page is complete. We're going to flip that right on over, score tape around the outside, one down the middle, two shorter ones on either side, and you will mount that in your book. Page 4, let's go ahead, measure over 7 inches and cut that. This side goes in our reserves. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut that. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, and look in your book and you'll know what I'm talking about, is we are really thick on this page and we are equally thick on this page. That means, and this side was supposed to be for the groom, and we're still going to do that, but we're going to do a flatter page. For the next several pages we'll do some pockets and whatnot and decorate so that we can space this out nicely. Grab a piece of cardstock and measure over 5 inches and cut that. We're going to use the same die plates as we used on the previous page, and we're just going to lay those down, make sure they are all centered, and run that through the die cutter. You're going to cut from here to release this. This is what you should have. Let's lay our score tape. And remember, you're 7 inches across, so if you need to double check to make sure you're going the right way. And we're just going to center that. Flip it over, and let's tack that down. You should have a piece like this in your reserves. It may be a little short on either side, but that's okay. All you're going to do, we're going to place a piece right there to fix that. All you're going to do is measure down what you need, trim that. Now you should have some cuttings that are the same. What we're going to do is, don't glue this down yet, just put this where it needs to be. We're going to put lace across, but all we're going to do is measure what we need. You're not really going to be able to see that. And I'm going to trim that. I'm going to glue this one down first, and then the other one's going to be glued down over it. Making sure I line those up good. If you find that you cut it a little bit off, just make sure the bottom lines up. We are going to be placing a piece of lace across the top. So let's grab our 1 3/4 or whatever you want to use. Measure what we need to get across there. And I'm going to trim off my threads. And then I'm going to glue that right on down. While your lace is dry, grab the groom, and we're just going to do, I put it on my finger first, but we're just going to lightly, not too thick, just put a little bit of sparkle around there. Once it is dry, my fingers are all, you'll want to go around the edges with your metallic silver. You do have a choice of putting the glossy accents over this. I will be doing the glossy accents over mine, so there is some drying time. You can do your inking actually after that all dries. If your lace is dry, I know that my sentiment over here is still drying. But you can go ahead and cut a piece of bling to fit across. And glue that down. When yours is done drying, I don't recommend you doing it when it's still wet, like mine is still wet. You'll want to apply glue to the back of this and around here. And you're just going to center that. In that paper house, we have a nice little groom's suit. And this is where I'm using this. I just disinfect my countertop to get some of the stickles and stuff I gooped all over it. So that's why that's down. Just peel off the adhesive, and we're going to do what we've done before. Peel it off, add our glue, place it down, and now let's cut out around that. Once you've mounted that to some chipboard, you can grab a 3D, and all I'm going to do is put a couple down below here. I'm going to put mine just like that. Flip this over so you can see a little better. Okay, so all he's is going to be placed at an angle, and the reason why I only put it along the bottoms because we are popped up from the lace up here. Now sometimes I add a little more glue to those pop-ups just to help it out. This page is complete. Flip it over, score tape around the outside, one down the middle and two short ones on either side, and let's mount that in our book. Page 5 and 6 are almost identical, so let's go ahead in our paper collection, grab both of these. They're both the same. Whoops. So I'm going to cut both of mine at once, and we're going to do both pages at once to save some time. However, on one of these, turn them upside down. So one's like this and one's like this. We're going to cut both of these on our cutter. So the first thing that we want to do is measure over 7 inches and cut. Okay, the two long strips, let's put them off to the side in our reserves. Now, this is what you should have. We're going to double them up, butterflies down and butterfly up. Looking at it like this, measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have. So we are going to place this one up here, and this one goes to this one. Let's get some white cardstock. Next step is grab 2 pieces, or actually 1 piece of white cardstock, and we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut, and then we'll measure over 5 inches and cut again. Okay. On each one of these, let's move this all off to the side, and we will trim it to fit. We are going to put glue on the back of this, and we are going to place that centered between here and here, so we have flaps to go around the side on each one of these, and we will trim these up to fit. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got mine both glued down, and like I said, let's go ahead and trim off the excess white on each of them. Let's grab our left side first. And all we're going to do is lay our score tape across the bottom, making sure you push it down really good. Remove the score tape, and let's mount our pocket. wrapping our flaps around the back. Let's turn it over and tack them down. And we're going to do the same exact thing with this one. So let's do that. I got my left side down, and I want to show you a trick. Sometimes when we're folding back around our flaps, and then once we mount it in our book, sometimes it's hard. We don't get as much space as we want, or the pocket's too tight. I'm going to show you a little trick that I do sometimes. All I do is slip my score tape just a little bit in there. And then when I go to turn it over, then I tack it down. It's going to give me that extra room I need. Our next step is to cut a piece of the beaded trim to fit right like this. Now I had to take off a little bit on the sides so that I had the top tip coming up even on these. And we are going to glue those down. You're also going to cut a piece of the 3/4 inch thin white lace and glue that down to the bottom of each page. And I have it going like this. Cut a piece of bling, and that gets glued to the bottom of each page. Next, what you'll want to do is, using your Martha Stewart Monarch butterfly punch, is punch out 2 of these, and then you are going to smear the diamond stickles over it. Once you've done that and it's dried, apply a little glue to each one. And if you want to place it in somewhere else, you go right on ahead. I'm just going to place these just like this. Now what you'll do is cut some bling on the row, and I have 3 pieces here. And we're just going to glue these right to the middle of our butterflies. Once everything's dried, we're going to flip both of these over, apply our score tape the way we have been, all around the back, 1 down the middle and 2 short ones on either side, and mount that in our book. Okay, this segment of the tutorial is just an FYI or for ideas. I've used some embossing folders, and I've used some die cuts, and let me just show you what I've done, and then we're going to mix them together. First thing is, here is a real simple with an embossing, and then there was also the where you can use die cuts to layer on, and this is using the rectangular spellbinders, and I had one of my pictures I just stuck here. But the idea of this is to slip in those pockets on certain pages. Now this is a great idea if you're making the wedding album and you're unsure if perhaps they have a wedding party. They may just have a small wedding. They may not have a maid of honor, or they may. If you're unsure, you can always do small things and put decorate the outside and whatnot, and then on the inside you can put your photo mats. We'll reserve doing the photo mats at the end. I'll let you go ahead and do that with our scraps because there'll be plenty left over. But here is an idea. Another idea, if you did not want to use any of the die cuts from the Paper House adhesives, here's another one. And what I did was I used the Berry Cafe stamp and the silver ink, and I'm actually using the small mini silver ink nail by Colorbox that I just got into the store. My other one pooped out on me. But I embossed this and I stamped it. And then what I did was I just put some ribbon down in one of those really pretty satin flower with the rhinestone in it. And I did use some of the diamond stickles. And we're going to create something like this too together. I'll show you. Another idea, and we're going to do this together, is if you don't have any embossing folders, what you can do is do like a background stamp, and I did it in silver, and then I just went over with some of the diamond stickles. But this, and I'll show you how I got that, is something really cute that you can do, and you can even top it off with a little bow if you want it. So we'll make this together. Another idea is using an embossing folder and the stamp from the Berry Cafe, and then with the diamond stickles like that if you'd like. And then this is just from the rectangular Spellbinders. You don't have to use it, but it was a cutout. And then all I did was kind of layer in. And then you have a folder, such as like this, and not glued down, but anyway, when you open it up, you can put your photo mats in there. And if you're not using any die cuts, well, that looks good too, just by itself, with or without. Another one is I used the frame embossing folder that I will be carrying in the store, but I just embossed it like this, and I don't know if you can see this well or not, but and I just, some of the scraps from the beaded sequin, I just stuck this, just kind of arrange however you want, and you can make a really pretty folder. And then once that's all glued down, you can flip it up again. This is just ideas for you. If you have no embossing folders whatsoever, here is another neat way, and I'm going to move this out of the way, is to cut a piece of white cardstock with your scraps. Just cut a piece to fit, and this is going to open actually this way, and then you can put your decorative paper inside. I'll show you this one. If you were to cut it and leave a little bit of a white background, that's always pretty. Put some lace down maybe across. This is just that filler. This filler works good, and you don't even need it. This is from the Majestic Circles from the Spellbinders that we've been using, and this is from the Paper House. And you don't even have to have any sentiment at all, and this would make a very gorgeous folder to pull out. Some other ideas. Here's just a plain embossed folder, but you can do a lot of different things, from placing doilies on here, using the little die cuts from the Paper House. You know, you can do so many things with or without. So these are just ideas. Maybe you've got some of this stuff already in your craft stash. I'm not sure. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you how I created this one. And I haven't glued anything down yet. And with this, I'm going to leave the bow off. The trick to this is when you are creating these and you're sliding them into the pockets, any bulkiness you're going to want to place at the top if you slide it in that way. Let me find, here is a page. But for example, and again, I'm not glued down, when you slide it in, if you were to have flowers down below, it's just going to be way too bulky, so you would want to put anything up there, like so. Here is one that has the bulkiness, and you just can slide that right on in to a certain point and still be able to do. But these are really neat because you can actually stack them up and just have several of them in here. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to this one and how I created it. Grab a piece of cardstock and cut it to 8.5 by 6.5. You're going to fold this in half, and you can use your scoring board if you'd like. The berry blossom stamps, excuse me, I think I may have said the wrong name. There's so many of these out there. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'm going to get my silver ink out. And I started with the smallest, and really you don't have to worry too much about up in here because we do have a lace coming across. So I'm just gonna do that, but I do want to use this. Be easier. And you're just gonna randomly stamp this. Okay, now I did grab this one, and the only one I really, whoops, darn, that's not good, sorry, let's see, the only one I really got was the larger flower on this. Grab your silver stickles. And because when we are doing this, we don't need to do silver stickles up here because our lace is going to go over it. So I'm using the 1 3/4 inch lace. Oop, glue. If you want to grab yours and get a cut a strip to fit across yours, go ahead. And because in your bride's family, so, and this is from your paper house. This is actually this one. If you want to grab it and just kind of lay it down, you can see exactly where you need to go over with, and you don't use a lot, just a little bit around these flowers that are going to be showing. So let's do that. Okay, once you've stamped this, you are going to want to let this dry. So I'm going to stick this aside. And the one I'm using is the bride's family, and I did use the silver going around the outside. And if you want, you can put a little bit of the diamond stickles around the edges. I didn't on mine, but if you'd like. Okay, this is so simple. Grab this out of your die cuts. Cut up, I'm using the 3/4 inch, but let's get our stuff ready to go. All I did was the 3/4 inch. I just cut a piece that if I was to lay it straight across, it would reach side to side, and then I can trim it up. I did grab this. It's a wider ribbon, so if I put this down, I'm going to be wrapping this around. So once you have those pieces, let's unpeel the back of this. And this just needs to go on some white cardstock. So, but I do want to place some glue underneath it first. Make sure it sticks. Just stick that there. And then I'm going to cut around it. I've got mine cut out. Now, because this has that sparkly stuff, I am going to use my hot glue gun to tack this down. Otherwise, it will take quite some time with that glue. And I got yuck all over mine. So I'm just going to put a little there. And okay, for this part, and I am using a wider one, and it is the like organza. You can use whatever it is that you have handy. The first thing that I did was trim this better to fit, and I just kind of came up through here, and because I do need to leave some to tack around the back. As soon as I got it trimmed to where I didn't have so much there, I did use my hot glue, and be very careful not to burn yourself. And I pulled it tight first around the waist. And this is all you're gonna have to do. Then I just kind of maneuvered this to wrap around the back. And voila, you have a cute little dress there. Okay, I think all we're waiting on now is for this to dry. I am going to tack down my lace because I don't have any of the stickles up there. And I'm going to let that dry too while everything else does. And then I'm going to come back when this is all dried. I think I'm dry enough. I am going to go ahead and glue this down. I'm going to use my hot glue really quick. Glue that down. And then all I have to do is glue this down. And I am using hot glue because it grabs faster. So this is my finished one, and I did end up putting the bow on there. I'm just going to find a place in here to put this. Let's see. Looks good to me. Okay, let's move on to this one. On this particular one, I used an embossing folder that actually had like a smooth area across it. If you don't have that, what you can do is cut a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to show you the same technique but using a different embossing folder. Like I said, it does not have anything smooth. I did cut a piece of white cardstock that is smooth. And now I'm going to get into the Berry Blossoms stamp set. I'm going to get my silver ink out. And you'll want your diamond stickles for this too. And all I'm going to do is just stamp it one way and the other. I'm going to apply my diamond stickles, and all I really did with this was just do a little outlining here, real lightly. You don't have to go real thick on this. And I outlined the whole thing, and then I just went in and went around some of the petals. So let's do that. If you have the embossing folder that has the smooth area, you'll do this technique right on there. Mine's still drying, but I am going to apply glue to this to get this on my embossing folder. And I'll bring it down just a little bit more there. Right about there. That's where I like it. Now, if you get too much of your stickles on, remember, you can just dab it off with your fingers. And then if you need to trim up the sides when you're done, you can do that. In the meantime, set that aside, and let's cut a piece of thicker ribbon and thinner ribbon. All I did with my thicker, wider actually, ribbon was just cut that right in half. I'm just going to glue two pieces together like this. For me, it's easier just to use a little hot glue to get it going there. And then some thinner ribbon. When yours dries, all you have to do is put a little glue there and attach it. And you can always trim these up if you don't like them that long. To top it off, all we're going to need is one of our little round flowers with the rhinestone in the middle. And then for me, I did get a little bit over, and I'm just going to trim that right on up. And there, it's done. So different looks that you can get. Okay, let's move on out of this section. I think I've given you a lot of ideas here. Let's move on to page, what are we on here? 7. Wow. Okay, page 7 and 8, they are similar. So let's go ahead and do all this at once. In your paper pack, you will find these prints. Let's grab 2 of them, measure over 7 inches, and cut. These 2 pieces go in our reserves. Let's turn it and measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut that. Stick these off to the side. We'll just put those all in our reserves for right now until we're ready. Okay, one of these we're going to set off to the side for page 8. This will be our base page over there. In your paper pack, you will find what looks like a pearl metallic page. On the other side, it might be easier for you to see. The other side looks like this. This is the side that we want. So what we're going to do is measure over 7 inches and cut. Go ahead and put this one in reserves. Now all we are going to do is measure over 3 1/2 inches and cut it, and then we're going to measure over 3 1/2 inches again and cut it. So with these 2 pieces, one belongs to this page and this one is going to belong to this page, and we will get to that in a bit. Grab a piece of cardstock. You're going to measure over 3 5/8 of an inch and cut it, and then you'll measure over again 3 5/8 of an inch and cut it. Both of these are identical. Leave one for this, and this one goes with this page. This is very simple. Make sure you got your paper going the right way, that you are 7 inches across. Easy way to check is just by placing this down. We want to make sure we got this going the right way. If it's like this, then you know you got it wrong. Okay, this is very simple. We're just going to apply glue to the back of this all over. We are going to bring this all the way to the bottom, centered, like so, leaving yourself some flaps to get around to the back. Let's grab our score tape, and we're just going to mount this pocket. And I am going to place my score tape in here because I do want some extra room just to help me out a little bit. And I'm going to fold around these tabs and tack them down. Grab some of your beaded trim, and I'm using the 3-inch. And I'm just going to cut this to fit, and I'm going to glue that down. So let's do that. We are going to have to let that dry, and when it's dry, we can go ahead and put our score tape around the outside, one down the middle and 2 short ones, and we're going to mount that in our book. I have got a nasty shadow in the lighting, but this page is mounted. Let's move on to page 8. Page 8, we're going to do exactly the same thing as what we just did on page 7, but we are going to have a fold out to it. Okay, let's glue this down, and we're going to do the same thing we did before, cutting our 3-inch beaded trim or whatever you decide you want to use. So I'm just going to quickly do this. I'm going to stop yapping and make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. Let's set this off to the side and let that dry. Let's work on our fold out. So really quick, I want to share something with you. I got a really nice little package in the mail from a customer, and she also subscribes to my YouTube channel, Beverly Garino. And she sent me this 2-way glue pen by Zig Memory Systems. And she said that she has been using it on picture mats. And she says one pen is generally good for one album. So I think I'll be using this to try it out for myself on my picture mat. So thank you, Beverly, and that was so sweet of you. And she was also telling me that they are inexpensive. So I'll look into that too. And I'll use it here in a minute on a picture mat on something that I know I won't be using as far as the decorative paper. And I'll tell you how it works. Let's go ahead and grab a piece of cardstock, or if you have something in reserves already. But what we are going to want to do is measure on over about 6.5 inches and cut that. And then we're going to cut it by 7 1/4. So final piece, 6.5 inches by 7 1/4 inches. I am 6.5 inches wide here at the 1/2 inch mark. Let's score. And then at 3/4 of an inch, let's score again. And then let's go ahead and fold on those score lines. Let's work on the inside. My flaps are off to the left here. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it's just white, single-sided. Let's go ahead and make 2 cuts to get ready for this fold out. Measure over 5.5 inches and cut it. So this is where we are at. I got interrupted for a moment. We're going to go ahead and measure over 5.5 inches on this one and cut that the same too. So you've got 2 pieces that are 5.5 inches wide. Put them together. Let's measure on over 7 1/8 of an inch and cut that. Okay, smaller pieces go in reserve. This is going to be the inner one. Let's check to make sure that we're going to fit, leaving us a little bit of a white border. Mine fits. And set this one off to the side. This is going to be the one that goes out here. Let's get our pocket ready. In your reserves, you should have a piece like this. It should be like 4 inches wide. We're going to go ahead and trim this down. So let's trim that to 7 1/8 of an inch. Cut that. Put this in your reserves. We're going to need some white cardstock, so you can look in your reserves to see if you have some. All we're going to do here, and it's real simple, is using this as a template. We're just going to place that down. You can make a mark with your pencil right on the other side if you'd like. And let's just trim. That's probably going to be about 4 1/16 or so. We're going to glue this down. And by the way, this is the piece that we're looking for. And we are going to center that. Whoops, I'm going to get this out of the way. We're just going to center that so we have flaps at the top and the bottom. Okay, time for score tape. We're going to put a piece right down that side. And we're going to mount this. Let's cut a piece of our 2-inch sequin trim to fit. And we're just going to glue that down, right like that. Now when gluing this, you're going to get right under here and here, under this, this, and this. You are going to leave this part to where you can still slide something in there. I don't have anything handy. Sometimes it's easier to just start something like this off with a little bit of hot glue to get it started on each side. So long as it doesn't seep out and you don't see it, it's fine. Now for the rest, I'm just going to put some glue here, some right here, and right here. One thing you might want to do is slide something in there so that the glue, in case it seeps out, doesn't get on anything. And once this is dry, you can now glue this down to the inside of your panel, making sure I got glue on me. Clear your inner score lines, and your flaps are up off to the left. Let's go ahead and attach our fold out the way we have been doing. And tack that down once you get it lined up. This is optional, but this is what I'm going to be doing. You'll need 3 things. The cutout from the paper house, the cake, the champagne, and remember those little cut-offs that we had from trimming the ribbon roses? Make one into a bow, like I've done. I'm going to go ahead and attach this slightly to the bottle, and we are going to mount it on the cardstock. So I'm just going to... And how you want to do this, and at least how I'm going to be doing it, is just like that. Now I'm going to take off from this, I'm going to mount this onto white cardstock, and then I'm going to cut around it. After you cut around it, this is what you're going to have, and I'm just going to place a little glue that's going to be on here and right down here. That's it. It does take a moment to dry, and this is a good time for a binder clip to help. And we're going to need some up this way too, as best you can. If you don't want to up there, you don't have to. I'm just going to clip that down. This little bow that was made, all I'm going to do is glue that right down there. I'm just going to put a dot right here in the corner and place that. And then we're going to allow that to dry. And once that's dry, we will flip that over and start working on the outside. Mine is dry. I'm going to start working on the outside here. Let's grab this piece, and we're going to have a small pocket here. Now, if you notice in your reserves, there are 2 pearly types of paper. If you flip it over, one is the green and one is what we were using down here. I'm just going to grab this one. All we are going to do on this to make our first cut, it's very easy. Grab your pencil, just make a mark to the edge of your page and cut it. So we are fitting side to side. Take your ruler and at 2.5 inches, make a mark. Let's cut that. Now cut a piece of card, or get out of your reserves a piece of cardstock that's going to be wide enough across to give us flaps to go around the back. I chose this scrap because it's narrow. All I'm going to do is glue this down, and then I'm going to trim off the excess. So let's do that. Let's get our score tape. And the flap on this side is really wide. I'm just going to trim off what I don't really need down there. And we are going to mount our pocket on here like we would normally. Okay. The next step is really simple. Out of your ornate borders and pockets die, the ones that we've been using, you're going to die cut 2 pieces like this. And this is 1 inch, what's left here. So you can die cut it on a piece of white cardstock in your reserves. Once you have 2 of them, you're just going to place one over the other. You will glue it down. Place some glue there. Make sure you line them up like so. And then you're just going to glue around the back your tabs. Put some in there. Like so. The next thing you're going to do is glue this right down like this. The top here of that band is going to go to the top of this. So I'm going to place glue. And I am going to grab something to put down in there. Then let's grab some lace. I'm using the 1 3/4 inch. And I'm just going to cut that to fit across this band. And I'm going to glue this down. Out of the paper house, you will grab this one, remove the backing, find some of your light chipboard there, glue it down, and cut it out. All we have to do now is glue this down, and I am going to use a little hot glue here. Making sure I don't get in there. Let's grab our page, and this is ready to get glued down on there. So let's do that. This page is complete. Let's go ahead and flip it over, put our score tape around, and do what we usually do, 1 down the middle, 2 on each side, and mount that in our book.